From Mr. Paul Tassi, the questions I have about Destiny 2 in 2026. 2026 has arrived, and with it, another year of Destiny 2. We're still in the first half of the 6-month stretch that makes up the Renegades era, Destiny 2's second post-Final Shape expansion in its new slimmed-down format. Slimming down includes its player base, which has reached new lows, raising questions about its future. But there are other questions about the game's 2026 plans, and I have many. Well, no, I don't think Paul's rage baiting. I mean, if you do look at the numbers, I just don't look anymore. It's better that way. Are we staying in the system indefinitely? There was once a promise, or at least very strong hints, that Destiny 2's new era would involve heading beyond our solar system. I would argue that no, Kepler does not count, and Renegades takes place on 3 existing locations. It seems very clear we were staying on Earth and going to Old Chicago in the next expansion. But is this just going to continue? With the idea that the 9 are each linked to solar system planets binding us here. So what would happen to the portal? Was easily the most widely disliked addition to Destiny 2 after the Final Shape, though many of its biggest problems, like an awful power grind and stingy loot, have been addressed. That says, it still has loads of issues, namely that for many reasons, it is deeply unfun at higher levels. And Renegades is brought in for A, an expansion farming activities, and B, Vanguard alerts playlist that makes playing the portal at all not terribly necessary. Is it gone? Is it reduced? Overhauled? I don't play the portal much. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I play Vanguard alerts. Actually, I don't think I play the portal, but maybe 2-3 times. Like, some people are gonna say, well, Vanguard alerts is a part of that. I guess you can say that, but technically it's not the portal. All right, I guess technically it is part of the portal, but it's a separate thing. It reminds me of like old school GMs. What I play the most is expansion, Lawless Frontier, Equilibrium Dungeon, and Vanguard alerts, and I really have not touched anything in the portal. A big reason for that, though, is because Vanguard alerts, it has a drops with the accelerated assault origin trait. Why farm for any of the loot in the portal unless I like absolutely need to have it right now? But why farm for any of those drops whenever I can wait for everything to get in rotation here for the Vanguard alerts playlist and get the origin traits? Alerts are good. So what will happen to tier 5 loot? Bungie has opened Pandora's box here with tier 5 loot. It once seemed like it would be a rare pinnacle chase, but instead the game now dumps tier 5 loot on any moderately level player. And if the game dares to give out lower tier loot anywhere now, it's lambasted. There has been one more level of power creep added with shiny tier 5 weapons with a better origin trait, but what else is changing here? Are they stuck? I actually think the answer is the shiny rolls, the shiny variants, the extra origin trait. A huge reason why we grinded loot back in Heresy was to get that runneth over roll, right? And that was essentially the shiny version. Tier 5s are definitely better than all of those, right? But I think that's the answer. I think it would improve the trials experience too if you added shiny variants only from the lighthouse. But you would also have to make lighthouse runs repeatable. I still think the tier system is asked for incentive. Well, I think most people are just looking at tiers 1 through 4 as like filler. And they're like, I just want to get the tier 5. I will say this though, there are some just godly rolled tier 4s. Like I rock a tier 4 high tyrant. I'm not gonna let go of that thing at least until I get a tier 5 version of it, and then I'll discard it. Just remove tier 1 and tier 2. I don't think that's the answer either, guys. Look, when you play new light, like if you were to start a new light campaign, start a new character, you don't even go through the same loot process that many of us went through. With the process being starting off with common white gear, working your way up to green uncommon, working your way up to rare blues, then eventually getting your way to legendaries. Inside of the new light experience, they immediately just dump legendaries for you, which I don't really like. Like I think there should be a separation there, and at least it was enjoyable for us, you know, going through the different rarities, working our way up, and it really meant something to have a legendary. What's really happened is common gear, uncommon gear, and rare gear has just been replaced by everything is just moved up to the tier system. How will power change? Bungie's in a weird place where we have racked up 6 different subclasses now to the point where dumping another one out seems almost unnecessary. But we don't have any real idea what will happen from here, though something has to happen to keep things fresh. That could be something as small as more aspects, fragments, 2 new supers for classes that need them, like Stasis to Strand. So some sort of new system that could channel a different mechanic like Transcendence or something along those lines later on top of the classes. But we just don't know. And the sandbox changes now are mainly just buffing and nerfing existing abilities. That is true. That is true. And also that's also a request from us, right? We want to see old abilities that have, you know, fallen from grace or was just never good to begin with. We want to see those buffed. However, I do want to remind, I know everybody wants a new subclass, and believe me, I do too. But I want to remind everyone, one of the best years of Destiny was Witch Queen. And what did we get during that entire year? You got Void 3.0, Solar 3.0, Arc 3.0, Dude, Destiny felt like a new game every season. You had these, when we were moving to the aspect fragment system, that was so much fun. I had so much stuff to do. What I'm saying is, no, I'm not asking for an entirely new reworked subclass. What I'm asking for is like more additions to aspects and fragments and some new additional supers, but roll it out for all the classes, starting with the ones that need it most, Stasis and Strand. Roll it out for all the classes throughout an entire year. Would I be against an entire subclass rework? No, I wouldn't, but that's kind of, if there is a sequel being worked on, I would assume that's a sequel thing. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. The other side of things, Bungie could give us a new character, a new class. Like, I'm not talking about a new subclass. You know, that's one thing that Bungie has not done. It would really shake things up. Like, adding a new class would shake the game up so much if you added something outside of Titan Hunter and Warlock. No. I'm not talking about subclass. A class, guys. What will mid-season updates become? I'd argue that the launch of Ash and Iron was probably the worst period of time since the Edge of Fate launch. The reveal that mid-season updates are not like Into the Light, as referenced previously, but instead some underwhelming activities and disjointed story moments. I think Bungie has learned at least something from that disaster, which is why I'm very curious to see if Shadow and Order in a month or so will make significant changes and be a time to return, not to leave. I mean, I could be wrong. I think it's probably going to be similar to Ash and Iron, guys, but you know, we'll see. We'll see on that. I just think that the content inside of Destiny is going to be pretty light until the next big expansion, be July. What else returns? The substance of the Portal and the Vanguard Alerts playlist is 95% old content. As such, it stands to reason that other old content is going to come back, which makes me wonder if that could go so far as completely vaulted planets, though maybe just carved out strikes or missions within those planets. This category could also include what is updated, which I think is the most likely thing to happen, making the huge swath of old irrelevant content worth playing again through updated loot made into tiers with new perks and set bonuses and such. Though I'm not holding my breath for some sort of avalanche here, and fundamentally, this would just be reissuing the same stuff for the third or fourth time like everything else. Dude, yeah. I mean, how many of you right now, if Vault of Glass dropped right now with tiered loot, how many of you would go grind it? The problem is, yeah, most of you are saying again, it feels just like yesterday that we grinded raids like Vault of Glass or Last Wish, and then Bungie introduced weapon crafting, and then they introduced the ability to get craftable rolls from those raids, and then we regrinded them again. You know where I'm coming from? To then just be like, here you go, another one. No lie. On the topic of raids, guys, if Bungie was to ever do it, if they were to ever do old raids with tiered loot, I would prefer they give us a Pantheon-style playlist that changes every week, that stays in the game year-round. Some of you are not going to like that because you want the event, the Pantheon event, stays in the game year-round, and that can be the version that gives us tiered loot. And it would also be extremely fresh. It won't feel the same. It'd be various encounters from all the different raids that mixes it all up. And of course, changing some of the encounters. All right, so player count here. What is the new player count baseline? Destiny 2 has to settle into some sort of baseline without continuing to hit series low after series low. Renegades, despite being a better expansion, launched with a far lower peak player count than the Edge of Fate, with the next expansion fall even further. A key question here is when or how the bleeding stops, or if it's even remotely possible to reverse. And on top of that, what even counts as sustainable? Now, between Bungie's reduced workforce, way more Eververse offerings, and way less overall content, how long does Destiny 2 have left? Can it really keep this up? Lots of questions. I don't expect satisfying answers for all of them, but we should start ticking off some of these boxes soon as the year progresses. Yeah, no, I agree with Paul. I'm gonna be honest, I just don't look at the player counts anymore because it's kind of depressing. You know what I mean? Does it ruin my experience to look at the player count numbers? Not necessarily. I think Renegades is actually a solid expansion. I completely understand why Edge of Fate just, you know, bored the shit out of some people. But I think Renegades is kind of like a return to form, if you will. You just got to make the expansions fun, dude. I mean, it's kind of, I say an easy equation, but it's simple. Maybe not easy to do, but it is simple. Good loot, good intriguing loot, good content, and a sandbox that's just fun to play. That feels fresh and new. And I think we got a lot of that. Not as many like big sandbox updates, but Renegade's abilities really change things up. And then the weapons themselves that's been the clear winner. That's really what's been carrying this expansion. I also like Lawless Frontier, you know? I don't know what that number is for Bungie. I would assume though, no one just wakes up and goes, I want us to perform at a third of what we were performing years prior. No one is going to be okay with that shit. So I'm sure it's definitely a conversation point for the higher ups at Bungie. And it should be. It should be. As far as what we do from here, I just don't think a lot. I think the formula we have in front of us probably won't change too much until we get to July. There'll probably be some tweaks, but in terms of like big changes, I don't think much is going to change until then. I also just think Marathon is just such a big focus for Bungie right now. And that's really, man, that's the thing that's going to decide everything, is how Marathon rolls out, how it's received in March, which is not far from now, guys. Y'all know the rollout. We're going to probably be getting like Vidocs in February, maybe an open beta or something like that. And I'm curious to see if Marathon is going to be able to pull in momentum into its launch. What that means for Destiny for this year, I have no idea, guys. I have no idea. All I can say is Renegades has been good. I've definitely enjoyed my time in Renegades way more than I did with Edge of Fate. And there is a lot of problems, though, that Bungie is kind of like, they've kind of put themselves in a corner with, from how powerful we are, ability spam, tiered weapon, how it's being handed out, how loot's pouring out, you know. And if you were to just pull these things back, I think you would have a very upset player base. I hope you know where I'm going with this. I almost feel like the only solution forward is a D3. But wait! That's many years from now, if it ever even is a thing. So while we wait for a potential D3, we can play Destiny Classic. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of nostalgia. Go back in time for a little bit, huh? Relive those glory days. I'm just saying, look, we would play the shit out of it. Hold on. Y'all would play the shit out of it. There may not be, look, when I say y'all, there may not be many of us playing it, but we would play the shit out of it. And then Bungie could A/B test that shit too. If you were making a sequel, wouldn't it be good to know, like, what is the sweet spot for too much loot, too little loot, too much power, too little power? You know where I'm coming from? It would be a great way for them to A/B test that shit directly with their community. I'm hopeful for 2026, guys. I just want you to know that. Like, for Destiny, I'm hopeful. And I think the biggest thing that is contributing to that hope is Marathon's coming out and we can get fucking past it, okay? Whether it succeeds or whether it fails miserably, I don't care. We get past it. And then we can see what the rest of 2026 is going to shake out. And what Bungie's going to continue doing.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.